Alright, greetings and salutations, everyone. It's Monday the 10th, and we're going to be doing a little bit of a life review. It's TR Day, and we're going to jump straight into that when we move into the stream, but I want to record a video kind of going over this build a little bit. I call it the Cleric Fire Mutt build as we're TRing, and there's a lot of places where I really liked it, and there's a lot of places I didn't like it. I think a lot of it boiled down to me, or for me, boiled down to the playstyle and how it kind of conflicted with each other. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. So the build is 2 levels of Artificer and 18 levels of Cleric. It is a half elf, which is very important. Stat wise, basically you want to max out your wisdom, try to figure out enough intelligence to where you can cover your rogue skills if you're interested in keeping them up. I was. So I have a base 15 and then a plus 7 tome. And then that was basically enough to keep my skills in place. We'll look at that in just a minute. And then I dumped pretty much everything that was left over into Charisma at that point. I mean, obviously my base con of 14, but or 16, however you want it to be, but basically I want it to be good at turning things, so more Charisma helps that out quite a bit. I need to actually look up the turning rules and see exactly how those are worded now. The second Artificer level happened, I want to say like a level 10 or level 11. It let you catch things back up and basically get your trapping skills all caught back up, your UMD kind of caught back up, stuff like that. And then as your tomes kick in, it got a little bit easier to maintain. Feat wise, I'm not going to get into things super deep here, but where is it? Basically, we heavily relied on mana magic feats, empower, maximize, quicken, heighten, etc. So like if I were to pick order of importance, maximize, empower, heighten, and then quicken. I think I finally took quicken at level 18 or 19 or something. Like I didn't take it particularly early. Almost didn't take it at all, except for like the big summon monster takes a long time. The positive energy burst takes a long time, and the whatever this is called, the last meta magic for Fire Domain. Alright, so speaking of, we are Fire Domain, just so you know. And then we also are a half elf, which we took the Warlock Dilettante V, or enhancement. If you've never read this before, it's not actually written correctly. So it's a toggle that deals 1d4 extra fire damage with attacks and spells. The difference is that the spells actually is a d4 per level, and it goes off every 2 seconds, or up to every 2 seconds. So you're actually doubling up your fire spell power pretty significantly. You're grabbing like a whole extra tick of damage in a lot of cases, especially at low levels. Especially when you're firing off like SLAs, like maximize and power SLAs, stuff like that. So we know from experimentation that it does work off of your fire spell power. It seems to be something that doesn't switch back and forth as a Fire Domain Cleric. So I guess we should talk about that for a second here too. Yeah, we'll just jump straight into this. So as a Fire Domain Cleric, you have a series of abilities depending on your levels. So at level 2, you get some bonus fire spell power, and then also you can turn undead or elementals just like undead. But really what's important is you get to use the light spell power if it's higher than your fire spell power for fire spells, or you get to use your light spell power. You get to use whatever higher, basically, between your fire and your light spell power for light or fire spells. So what that kind of means is you're incentivized to to really pick out at what levels that you can really maximize a particular spell power and just like really go to town on it. So before level 10 or 11, depending on your gear opportunities, in my opinion, you want to be light based. You want to wear like I think I still have it in my character slot actually. Yeah, Celestial Beacon and the Coalescent Coinage. And you want to be all in on the light spell power. So instead of this multi-selector here set for universal, you would want them to be set for light, and you wouldn't want this fire selector in here. The rest of the time, you want to switch it back, in my opinion, at level 10, level 11. So let's kind of get into the general idea and the concept of leveling. So why leveling? You're kind of like this SLA beast, right? If you go up to divine, blah, 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 blah. It's very early in the morning for me. If you're going up to the Divine Disciple tree, you're picking up this Nimbus of Light SLA. Once you've solidified into your domain a little bit, you're going to get this Scorching Ray SLA. You'll have your low-level Sound Burst, which eventually you want to not maximize it. You want to empower it. You're picking up Nimbus of Light, like I said before. You're picking up Holy Smite. You're picking up Searing Light. Like you kind of have like all these different SLAs that you can fire off to hit things. And again, every 2 seconds, you're also firing off with this half-elf dilettante extra fire damage. So even if you're like firing off a Arcane Initiate magic missile spell, you're gonna fire off 2 or 3 magic missiles, and then hit one of them is also gonna hit with a big fire dump of damage. Or if you're level 2 and you're also using the spell Nimbus of Light, you're gonna have like a Nimbus of Light, you're gonna have your SLA, etc., etc. So you can really machine gun things down with these low level pew 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 spells. One of the big problems is it's single target. It's single target all the time, which means you're really kind of getting the habit of this run and gun, stay moving, pick your target, shoot it down, pick your next target, shoot it down, kind of mentality. All that works really well, in my opinion, as your one level of Arty, and as you're picking up your cleric levels, right? Cleric levels are coming in. You're playing this kind of run and gun mentality. You're getting your big criticals, your big light spell power, and it's really working out well. And all this time, you're basically just going, all right, once I get firewall, we'll be able to change our strategy up a little bit. So you keep taking your cleric levels until you get your firewall, which you pick up firewall at 9 levels of cleric, which is why you'll get it at level 10. Then at level 10, you're still kind of running and gunning. You're slapping down your firewall. You're keeping things moving. Maybe you're sound bursting inside of a firewall to kind of hold monsters in place. Like you're getting things going. Things are grooving. You're kind of looking over and you're realizing that with some gear swaps, you can move into a higher fire spell power. So like for example, you can start putting on your Burnsar set and your Beacon of Magicka set. Stuff like that. It kind of starts kicking into place a little bit here and there. And you're like, maybe that's the point where you want to switch over to, in my opinion, more fire base. You might notice that I kept the light spell power chance because it is still your bread and butter for a lot of single target monsters. Reapers, big champs, stuff like that. You're still kind of powering them down with light spells for the most part, but so I wanted to keep that critical high, or at least as high as I could keep it, while still devoting a lot of my spell powered energy into fire. So Then you take your second arty level, around level, like I said, 11-ish, I think, is when you're kind of, and most people are going to want to take it. And then you get your rune arms, which you put on a rune arm, and you're talking about a situation where if you want to use your rune arm effectively, now you're doing a lot of like run and stand still, which sounds like something that would work okay because you're casting your firewall, you're sound bursting monsters inside the firewall, you're charging your rune arm, and you're firing. One of the real struggles is until you get these, oh my gosh, thermological conduits, your rune arms charges really slow. So you kind of want to, in my opinion, not do that unless you are already an experienced arty and experienced at using your rune arm effectively. It was something I really struggled with between the two different mentalities, because I wanted to take advantage of the rune arm because it's so much free damage essentially for the low cost of standing still, and it just never really kind of panned out for me in a way that I was really happy with. As you might notice, I'm deep in the Divine Disciple tree. I really like it. I feel like it plays really good. We're picking up a whole bunch of DCs for our evocation spells. We're picking up all these goodies. And the reason for that is everything that matters is a DC spell for the wizard. For the cleric. So Sound Burst, Firewall. I'm pretty sure Holy Smite is also an evocation spell. I'd have to double check that one. Maybe it's good. Yeah, no, it is evocation. So that blinds. Blade Barrier's evocation. I'm pretty sure the Sunbolt's evocation. I mean, all these things are evocation based. So in my opinion, you want to go evocation focused as soon as you can. Next, let's see. What else did we kind of end up having a lot of fun with in the low levels, below level 10? We started going up to Radiant Servantry as soon as possible. The main reason why is because we wanted to increase our ability to turn. So, in my opinion, the Fire Domain and the Animal Domain are two of the strongest domains. And one of the reasons why is because you get this ability to turn monsters that are not inside your normal turning circle. Alright, so normally you're turning undead. Turning undead is great all the way through the game from level 1 to level 20. There's lots of undeads pretty much in every quest. Some quests are all undead and you just run around as your turn attempt crazy person. And it feels really good. But when you open up your turning possibilities to being able to turn things like elementals or animals, it really augments the power of your turning attempts and really adds a whole nother layer to your solo ability, right? So instead of like, oh, there's an earth elemental grabbing at me from a distance, excuse me, you get close enough to fire off a turn undead attempt and you're good. Same thing with like an animal or a dog or something that's tripping you. You can generally get up long enough to fire off a turn undead attempt and get going. So I really like having that as an option. You don't just get to turn fire elementals as a fire cleric. You get to turn all elementals. So that's the same thing like if you were to go an electric cleric for an air domain or a water domain or whatever it is. You get access to turning elementals. I don't know why you would do those other types, but it's a thing. So yeah, this is kind of where I put my points here. This last point of wisdom came at level 19 or level 20. But basically these, what is that? 14 points? Yeah, these 14 points I kind of solidified early on. You could probably live without the wand and scroll mastery, as long as you can figure out how to get yourself up here to improve turning, and of course mighty turning, because you want to blow blow those things up as soon as possible. But for me, it was a good and easy way to fill up those points. And if you're self-healing off of wands or scrolls in Reaper content, it's always nice to get that extra bonus. Let's see. Along the way, again, most of this stuff started coming into play after level 12. A little bit of Radiant Servant stuff worked its way in earlier, getting extra turn attempts and trying to get the improved turning, mighty turning going a little bit as quick as possible, because again, so many of the low level quests are like all undead all the time. But after we kind of fiddled with these things, then we started picking up low hanging fruit in the rest of the trees. So like this one tier of War Priest adds a lot of fire spell power, a lot of light support power. Yeah, you do have this attack, but as you can see, I don't even have it on my bars anymore. A little bit of Renegade Mastermaker picks up same thing. Pauses spell power, 10 hit points. It's really strong. 10% healing amp, really strong. Battle Engineer. I took this a little later than I probably should have, and I probably should have tried to take this around level 13. That I think I would have been a little bit happier with the standing still situation. If you watch a lot of my road least taken videos, I'm almost always charging my rune arm and moving and then stopping, shooting something, then just firing off the rune arm like willy-nilly as I can. That's not something you really want to do on this build, because charging a rune arm slows you down. You already kind of feel slow as a cleric. You don't have a lot of extra boosts or anything adding to that until you have enough points that you can get up in falconry a little bit. So you pick up a little bit of healing amplification, 1 or 2 points of this PRR, and then you grab this sprint boost, and then you have a little bit more of an opportunity to move around, get some stuff done. So between some past lives and the sprint boost, I have 9 additional run sprint boost type clickies, which is a lot, I'm not gonna lie, but it felt like it was never enough. I always needed more, especially once you get a few more levels on you and you're able to take Blade Barrier, which is the next big power jump. So but overall, the enhancements, I think, should speak for themselves, kind of in the idea of you're playing this Divine Disciple Blaster type build. You have this capability to turn undead. Then you're improving your healing amp and augmenting your weapon selection with your rune arm. And then you're kind of fleshing out everything else that you missed along the way. Speaking of things along the way, as you level up, you're going to want to take spell focus whenever possible in your evocation. I feel like you're almost always tossing between evocation focuses, and in my case, I took the Wizard Past Life feat. There it is, the Wizard Past Life feat. You're just like grabbing these different +1s to your spells, because especially with something like Soundburst, just being able to make a pack of monsters, especially when you're one spell, one kill kind of targeting, being able to make 2 or 3 things stand still long enough for you to cycle through your spells and kill the pack is really strong. So you kind of want those things in there. Yeah, I think that's it for the most part when it comes to that kind of situation. After level 12, then you're kind of like fighting your way to level, I think, 13. And that's when you get your Blade Barrier, and then your strategy kind of improves, I think, even more, and you get even less from this stand still, fire off your rune arm, and even more into the run and gun situation, because you're constantly wanting to gather up as many enemies as you feel comfortable with, slap down a Blade Barrier, slap down a firewall so it kind of crosses or intersects that Blade Barrier, and then you just kind of move things through the blade barrier and the firewall as much as possible. And then you primarily start focusing on your SLAs that do AoE effects. Again, Flame Strike, and this, I don't even remember what it's called, Firestorm, I think. And then, of course, Holy Smite, stuff like that along the way. So yeah, that's kind of how that mentality worked out. As you leveled even higher, you can start doing things like slamming your Slay Livings or Destructions, or even eventually your Implosions. And even if your DCs are, again, a little bit lower than your Evocation DCs, it's fine. You're not using them all the time. That's not really what they're there for. They're there just kind of in the situations where you can slam an insta-kill effect and to try to take out a champ for more efficiency. And for the most part, I feel like that worked out pretty well. Let's look at spell selection here really quickly. So, Find Traps is a spell that often gets overlooked unless you're playing something very similar to this build. Because I don't really carry around trapping gear anymore, it's not something that I feel like I should bother with various past lives and stuff like that. Find Traps really came in handy a lot this life. And also not being intelligence focused, right? It's very easy to keep up your search and spot and stuff like that in situations where you're raising your intelligence, and situations where you're every level able to dump full skills or full points into skills. So Find Traps really kind of like made the difference up between not carrying gear on you and not having like your intelligence item, your spot item, stuff like your search item, stuff like that. So I really leaned heavily on Find Traps. I also leaned really heavily on the Seek Eternal Rest. This gives you an extra +4 bonus to your turn undead attempts. Which again, because the way it's written, and we might have to do a deeper dive in another video on Turn Undead, but because the way it's built, you really have to have that be as good as possible if you're going to lean on it hard. I think for the most part that those are kind of self-explanatory. Everything else, things that are on this list that I almost never cast. I will tell you I keep Summon Monster 1 around just so in case I have Summon Monster 8 and I need a situation where I need to get the big 8 killed off because you don't want monsters or whatever. Turn around Summoning Monster 1 and then letting that thing get killed is a pretty easy way to kind of get rid of your bigger summons. And I did prepare bigger summons along the way. I did summon them pretty consistently up until the last couple of levels. And then they just became a bigger time sink than necessary. I didn't normally take Remove Curse and stuff like that until much later. I had the protection from elements in here. I did like having the individual elements laid out, but it just seemed like a bigger perk to just throw them all together. I also have both mass and regular protection from elements. I tend to solo. I don't really have a lot of stuff at the level 7 that I'm a big fan of. So when I no longer needed this summon monster, it was easy to just add it back in. I think that's pretty much it for spells. It just kind of came together. You kind of fiddle along with stuff. One of the big issues with this build is if you're resetting your enhancements a lot because you're granted spells. You have to go back and reset your spells every time that you switch your enhancements as well. So keep that in mind, because you get Sunbolt added to your spellbook, you get Sunbeam added to your spellbook, you get Sunburst added to your spellbook, that kind of stuff. Anything else that actually matters for this? I don't think so. Important gear that kind of came along here and there and everywhere. As you can see, I'm prepared for TRing. your sash, for your enhanced combustion at level 10 plus, is pretty key. I actually really like this Hiratai's Influence set, level 15. It actually felt really good to me. So I would recommend it, and it also glues in pretty well into the into your gear set, I think. What's the other piece of this? It's not that. Is it the boots? No. I honestly can't remember what the other piece is now. Oh, it's the necklace. Yeah, it's the necklace. So it feels really good in the sense that it doesn't really take up anything really important. Like, it's not your belt slot, it's not your ring slots. So armor, gloves, and necklace, it all kind of works together really nicely, which lets you, again, slide in your belts really easily for extra spell power. It does free up your opportunity to use a different kind of rune arm. So like if you have a Whirling Words, you can use it if you want, etc., etc. I mostly kept the Dumpster Fire on tap just because it does do quite a bit of damage to single targets. But you'll notice that I do still have the... oh no, I just took it out. I was also using Whirling Words quite a bit until we started getting our gear together to TR. Other than that, it works out pretty nicely. I was able to use my Pansoptic Circlet to get the potency in. So I guess we could look at our final numbers over here on things like spell power, stuff like that. Our saves, not great. Base attack bonus, terrible. Don't try to hit anything. Our PRR was surprisingly good, I think. We could get it a little bit higher if we really, really wanted to, but I felt like it was fine for a majorly self-healing class. Like, when you can just slam a heal, things just become much easier. Even when your heal stops doing several hundred points of damage and instead does like 128 or 135 or whatever it is, it's still pretty easy to stand there, hit the button a couple of times, fire off a heal scroll, whatever, and be done. But anyway, our fire spell power here at level 20, and it was pretty close to this the entire time. Actually, the only reason it changes when we're leveling up since level 15 is that, again, that fire domain 2 spell power for each cleric level. So yeah, for quite a long time it's actually been really high, but it's almost 500, which means all of our light spells, all of our fire spells, all have that big fire spell power on it. And then up until, us preparing to level, we also had these Potions of Improved Inferno, which is an extra plus 15. So getting over 500 was pretty easy. The crit chances, let's see, our light is 24 and our fire is also 24. You could go all in on like the fire by switching these from light critical to 1% generics, which is good, but I wanted to have as much opportunity to one-shot Reapers as possible. And when I see a Reaper, basically it means I just slam a Maximize in Power, Heighten, like all the meta magic Sunbolts at it. And if it doesn't one-shot it, it puts it in a situation where it's easy to clean up with literally any other follow-up. So reducing your fire spell power, 4% critical chance, to raise your light spell power up, I feel like 8 instead, or 4 more, doubling that bonus, I feel like was worth it to me. Especially considering so much of our interaction with the monsters came from light spells. Positive spell power was fine. Again, we're just under 400, which is more than enough to heal anybody else in the party, but it doesn't really mean anything to you, really. A little bit here, a little bit there, but it's fine. Healing Amp is not bad, 115, which again really helps you in your Reaper mode when you're trying to get things done when it comes time to like pause and heal back up. Things that I kind of wish that I had. I kind of wish I had more opportunity to put some more points in falconry. Because even if you don't go all the way up the tree, I still feel like diving attack, strike for the eyes, coordinated strikes, and normally exposed weakness, but I don't think exposed weakness in this situation matters. But getting these attacks in there are still, I feel like, really good and strong. Yeah, that's it. That's it. They're just good and strong. I wasn't swinging weapons, so I didn't care about anything else. It did let me pick up, like, well-rounded. It did let me pick up with some wisdom. Over here in the racial tree, I was able to pick up some wisdom. As usual, like I said, we are working through our lives. So, a couple of things I just want to talk about in the half-elf tree here for this particular build. These warlock things, I don't think really matters. It does let us pick up some extra spell points, though, which is kind of why we did it. Somebody mentioned that we had so many more spell points than a favorite soul that was playing with us. And it's things like this. Like, we are picking up an extra 160 spell power, or 160 spell points, basically for free in our half-elf tree. I think there's some extra mana kind of stuck around here in different places as well. Not to mention past lives and some Reaper enhancements. So, like, all this extra mana stuff all adds up when it comes to that blue bar amount. I did actually run out of mana in a couple of places, especially some long quests. I was able to lean on Ellery to basically kind of fill up that shortcomings. But I could easily see people needing to shrine if you don't have an Ellery or you're not patient enough to pull that out, or rely on some potions. Again, just mostly for the really, really, really long quests. Everything that was like your normal time length, I feel like you didn't have a problem at all. Yeah, and that's basically the build. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. If you would like to see more details of the Fire Cleric build, like, subscribe, leave a comment on the video, etc. And let me know, because I don't mind taking the time to knock out a detailed written build for you guys and throwing it over at samusgrobo.com. But again, I don't know if it's something that really is necessary. If you were going to build something like this, and why I do really love rune arms in general, I feel like they add a lot to the build. I might do one rogue level instead of 2 arty levels, because you're not going to have evasion, and then potentially pick up 3 levels of wizard to pick up an extra feat and to kind of augment some of the weaknesses in your spell selection, like not having jump. If you don't have a Quiver of Alacrity, being able to pick up Expeditious Retreat, stuff like that. So if you're like playing this on the hardcore server, you can consider doing that instead. Yeah, you lose a little bit in your spell DCs, but I think you can easily make that up with just a few little tweaks in the wizard tree. So if I were to do this over again, it would probably look more, if I and I decided I was willing to give up the rune arms, it'd probably look a little bit more like your a 16 3 1, I would imagine, something like that. Maybe not. Maybe it would be an 18 1 1, so you could still have your top level spells. Because Implosion is really strong. Alright, everybody. Anyway, I hope you had a great time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, as always, like, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you guys again real soon. Toots.